Viewer discretion is advised. The following content contains graphic descriptions of historical events that may be disturbing to some viewers. For over 400 years, millions of African men, women, and children were kidnapped, sold, and forced into brutal slavery. This was the transatlantic slave trade, a horrific system that reshaped continents, economies, and societies. Today, we uncover its dark history. The transatlantic slave trade began in the 15th century, when European explorers, particularly the Portuguese, first reached the coasts of Africa. What started as a small-scale trading system soon turned into a global industry. European powers, Spain, Portugal, Britain, France, and the Netherlands, competed for control over the lucrative trade. The demand for cheap labor grew as European colonies in the Americas expanded. Plantations required a workforce, and enslaved Africans became the backbone of sugar, tobacco, and cotton industries. Africans were captured in various ways. Some were prisoners of war, others were kidnapped by European traders or rival African groups. Once captured, they were taken to coastal forts, where they were held in horrifying conditions before being loaded onto ships bound for the Americas. The journey across the Atlantic, known as the Middle Passage, was a nightmare, packed into tight, disease-ridden spaces. Enslaved people endured starvation, abuse, and unimaginable suffering. Many did not survive. Historians estimate that of the 12 million Africans trafficked, nearly 2 million perished at sea. Those who survived the journey faced a lifetime of forced labor. In North America, the Caribbean, and South America, enslaved people were auctioned off like cattle and forced to work on plantations. They endured brutal punishments, family separations, and inhumane treatment. Slave auctions were held in town squares, warehouses, or designated marketplaces. Men, women, and children were stripped, inspected, and priced based on their perceived strength and health. Wealthy plantation owners and traders bid on them, treating human lives as mere commodities. Families were often torn apart, with mothers separated from children and husbands from wives. These dehumanizing transactions fueled the economies of colonial empires and further entrenched the institution of slavery. The living conditions for enslaved people were deplorable. They were forced to live in cramped, unsanitary quarters, often in wooden shacks with dirt floors, inadequate clothing, and little protection from the elements. Food was minimal and barely sufficient for survival, consisting mostly of scraps or rations meant to sustain them just enough to continue working. Disease was rampant, and medical care was practically non-existent. Workdays were long and grueling, often spanning from sunrise to sunset with no compensation. Enslaved people toiled in the fields, performing backbreaking labor in extreme heat, while others worked in homes as servants, cooks, or caretakers. Despite their hard labor, they received no wages, only punishment and suffering if they resisted or failed to meet their master's demands. Slavery was not just an economic system, it was a legal institution upheld by colonial governments. Slave codes stripped Africans of their humanity, making it illegal for them to own property, learn to read, or seek freedom. Despite the oppression, enslaved Africans resisted, from small acts of defiance to large-scale revolts. Like the Haitian Revolution, they fought for freedom. Resistance took many forms: escaping through the Underground Railroad, revolting against their oppressors or preserving African culture and traditions despite the brutal conditions. By the late 18th and 19th centuries, abolitionist movements gained momentum. Enlightenment ideals, economic shifts, and moral outcry led to the gradual dismantling of the trade. Britain banned the slave trade in 1807, followed by the United States in 1808. However, slavery itself continued in many places until the mid-19th century. In the United States, the Civil War played a crucial role in ending slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, issued by President Abraham Lincoln, declared the freedom of enslaved people in Confederate states. However, full abolition did not come until the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865. In the Caribbean, enslaved people gained freedom through a combination of revolts and legislative action. The Haitian Revolution, from 1792 to 1804, led to Haiti becoming the first independent black republic, abolishing slavery entirely. British colonies followed in 1835 with the Slavery Abolition Act, which freed enslaved people across the empire, though many were forced into unpaid apprenticeships for years. The French abolished slavery in 1848, while Spain and Portugal ended slavery in their Caribbean territories later in the 19th century. In Europe, the abolition movement gained strength through activism, legal challenges, and shifting economic needs. Britain led the way, banning slavery throughout its empire in 1863. France, Spain, and Portugal eventually followed suit, although it took decades for the effects to fully take hold. The effects of the transatlantic slave trade are still felt today. Generations of African descendants face systemic racism, economic disparities, and social injustices linked to centuries of oppression. The African continent itself was left devastated, robbed of millions of its people and destabilized by European colonization. Discussions on reparations, historical acknowledgement, and racial justice continue to shape the modern world. Understanding this dark chapter is crucial in confronting the past and building a better future. The transatlantic slave trade was one of humanity's greatest crimes. But the resilience of those who suffered and their descendants is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Remembering history is not about dwelling on the past. It's about ensuring that such atrocities are never repeated. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what historical topics you'd like us to explore next.